Dr. Hamid Ansari ji, Rajeev ji, Seema ji, my distinguished co-panelists, friends. We live in times of despair, that goes without saying. But we also live in time of hope. Just before this program began, we were having chai and Rajeev ji asked me, कुछ उम्मीद कहीं दिखती है? तो मैंने कहा कि उम्मीद जरूर दिखती है, आपकी इस किताब में दिखती है। तो बधाई हो राजीव जी for writing a book that doesn't just describe despair but shows the sources of hope. दुनिया उम्मीदों पर ही कायम है। उम्मीद के बिना जिंदगी आगे जा नहीं सकती है। लेकिन उम्मीद एक्शन ओरिएंटेड होना चाहिए। For hope to be meaningful, it has to be action oriented. It should be action inspiring, and it should also be goal oriented. Action should be goal oriented. So what is the goal for action today? The goal, friends, if we want the clouds of despair to be dispelled, the goal has to be change in 2024. If there is no change in 2024, these clouds will become darker and darker. There will be more despair. So let's sink all our other differences, especially political parties, in the non-BJP space. It's time for them to come together and mobilize the people, mobilize the silent majority, and bring about a decisive change in 2024. That's the way to make hope a reality. I said that this book gives a lot of hope. So what are these sources of hope? One is our age-old culture and civilization, which is anchored in the concept of Dhamma or Dharma. There are a few essays in this book that explain Dhamma, both in the Buddhist sense, but also Dharma in the Hindu sense. The second source of hope is our freedom struggle. It's the freedom struggle that gave birth to our constitution, which again has been explained by Rajeev ji in his book. And the constitution, the basis of constitution is constitutional morality. और आज ना constitutional morality है, ना institutional morality है, ना morality of the office of prime minister है, ना individual morality of the prime minister है. दो मुसलमान जलाए जाते हैं and the culprits are not nabbed, not prosecuted. Open calls are given for genocide. Not one word in Man Ki Baat, which has perhaps crossed a century. The other source of hope is the Gandhian values. In Rajeev ji's book, there is a repeated reference to Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi's thoughts on religion, Mahatma Gandhi's thoughts on secularism, the other source of hope is our democratic system with all its flaws. And of course, last but not the least, it is the innate wisdom of our common people, the common masses, which we intellectuals often disregard and don't care to know about. But there are some essays in this book where Rajeev ji describes his chance encounters and conversations with common people, taxi drivers and others, and how they throw light on burning issues of the day with great hope and wisdom. I must also say that there are two things, Rajeev ji, that I would have liked to see in your book, but are somewhat missing. There is a good deal of discussion on secularism and what has happened to secularism, but there isn't much examination on another preambular principle of the Constitution, and that is socialism. It's very unfortunate, friends, that in India today there is hardly any discussion, debate, discourse on socialism. Until the beginning of the 90s, socialism, there was a certain national consensus on the commitment to socialism. Even the Bharatiya Janata Party included socialism in its party constitution. But today, no one talks of socialism, as if we have abandoned and it's just waiting to be removed from the constitution if the BJP gets requisite majority. Along with, of course, they want to remove secularism too. But when we talk of hope and despair, we must focus on the steep inequality, growing inequality in India. And socialism has to be socialism of Indian characteristics, something that we have failed to evolve. The other thing that I would have liked to see in your book, Rajeev ji, is some discussion on what accompanied our freedom movement, and that is partition of India. Many problems that we are seeing today in India have their roots in the enormous tragedy that partition was, and the theory of two nations propounded by the Muslim League, which caused partition, of course, in connivance with the British. But today, we are, after 70 years, we are seeing how it's all being played out in a very different way. So what's the way ahead? Again, Rajeev ji's book emphasizes the importance of conversation, the importance of listening, the importance of samvad, dialogue. And let me read out two passages from his book. Listen to criticism. An elected government must listen to what ordinary people say about it, good or bad. It is even more duty-bound to pay heed to public-spirited intellectuals whose entire social role is to assess, evaluate, and criticize those who wield power or have the potential to cause systemic harm to ordinary people. Those who can't stomach dissent or protest are, in Rajeev ji's very powerful words, those who can't stomach dissent or protest are unfit to rule. और हमारे प्रधानमंत्री हैं, कहते हैं कि I invite criticism. Criticism is good for us to improve ourselves. But the moment someone criticizes, we know where they are sent. Rajeev ji also writes, good listening is especially needed in times of deep disagreement, when we forget that there are as many views as there are people and delude ourselves into believing that the world is divided into two, us and them. We believe that only two views exist and the one held by us is correct. This particularly crude form of binary, thinking exacerbates conflicts and deepens polarization. Listening helps reveal hidden commonalities that bolster cooperation. It dispels mistaken assumptions. And therefore, friends, in these times of despair, I propose, these are my views, these are not reflected in this book, but I very strongly believe that India needs samvad. India needs dialogue even with our opponents. और इस किताब में एक बहुत अच्छी बात है that there are no enemies in democracy, there are adversaries. मुझे याद है, I worked very closely with Advani ji. The first time Rahul Gandhi met Advani ji at an airport lounge, Advani ji was sitting someplace. Rahul Gandhi entered, and out of respect, he went up to Advani ji and said, Advani ji, you are such an experienced person. I've just entered politics. I would like to know what should be the relationship between our two parties. So Advani ji said that we should regard ourselves as adversaries and not enemies. लोकतंत्र में शत्रु नहीं होते हैं, लोकतंत्र में adversaries होते हैं, and where necessary in national interest we should also cooperate. That is something reflected in this book. So what India needs is samvad, and samvad with whom? Samvad even with those that we disagree with. Now we don't expect today's BJP to engage in this kind of dialogue, but those who want to change, those who want change in 2024 must regard that there are no enemies in India, which means samvad even with the RSS. I'm sure that many people in this hall will not agree with this, but I very firmly believe that there must be samvad, conversation, even with the RSS and the Sangh Parivar. Along with samvad, there should be sangharsh. Where we disagree, we must struggle. But out of samvad and sangharsh, there will be samanvay. And the way of India throughout history has been this kind of samanvay between apparently opposite forces. I'm sure that in the days to come, in the years to come, there is going to be a new national reconciliation in which every legitimate concern of every community, every ideology will be recognized, and there will be a reconciliation, and that kind of reconciliation is the only hope for India, and India is capable of bringing about such reconciliation. Thank you very much.